we talked to our reporters here before the break about the Biden campaign strategy heading into the summer months. Now let's go inside that strategy with the senior member of the Biden campaign. Quentin Folks is the principal deputy campaign manager and joins me now from the campaign headquarters in Delaware. Thanks for joining me. Appreciate it. So let's talk first about that ad, the striking ad that is narrated by Robert De Niro, takes Trump on in a pretty aggressive way. We played it in our last segment, but I want our viewers to take another quick look.
From midnight tweets to drinking bleach to tear-gassing citizens and staging a photo op, we knew Trump was out of control when he was president. Then he lost the 2020 election and snapped. Trump wants revenge, and he'll stop at nothing to get it.
So, Quentin, since Super Tuesday, that was, of course, when the general election matchup effectively began between Biden and Trump, your campaign has more than doubled Trump's campaign on ad spending, 49 million to 22 million. Polls suggest none of it is moving the needle. What makes you think this is going to be different?
Well, look, I think, one, we don't put any stock into polls. There are going to be polls that are up and down all across this election cycle. And so we're focused on doing the work. And part of that is communicating to voters exactly how dangerous Donald Trump is to democracy and the threat that he poses. And this ad does the same thing. When Donald Trump was president, he told Americans to inject bleach during one of the worst pandemics of our lifetime. He has continued to double down on his extreme rhetoric, embracing political violence. And we're going to highlight that and make sure that we're drawing a contrast between his vision of America and the vision that President Biden and Vice President Harris have for America. And that's exactly what this ad is doing. And so we're not focused on these polls because there are polls out there that have us up, there are polls out there that have us down. But what Donald Trump does not have that our campaign does is an infrastructure. And that's what we're spending every day and have been spending every day since last year when the president announced in April building an infrastructure that's going to be able to communicate with voters. And that's what we're doing in this ad snap is exactly that.
So I understand what you're saying about the polls, and I hear you, but it is important to look at some of the specifics. Like CNN last month showed that 55% of Americans say the Trump presidency was a success. Compared to the survey taken days after January 6th, it was the opposite. We're showing that on our screen. You don't have to believe in every single poll, but obviously your strategy of calling him unhinged and snapped and everything seems to suggest that you too are worried about the way that a lot of Democrats describe to me people, especially young voters, voters of color, looking at the Trump presidency through rose-colored glasses.
Well, I don't think that it is a defensive posture that we are campaigning against Donald Trump and highlighting how extreme he is and what his presidency looked like in its first term. And so, again, these polls that are out, when people want to talk about these polls, the best indicator of polls is how people are actually voting. And when we see that, there are polls that had Democrats down in 2022. I was running the largest Senate campaign in 2022, and polls had us down, national polls saying that we were going to lose, and then we won. There was no red wave. And so, again, we have to do the work to communicate with voters. There's nothing defensive about it. And we are going to continue to highlight exactly how extreme Donald Trump is.
Take the polls out of it. When it comes to your approach, why is this the right approach right now at this time? What about the message about Donald Trump as a person, as a leader, how you characterize him, do you think matters so much to the voters that you're trying to persuade?
I think that voters are concerned about their economics. I think voters are concerned about their health care. I think voters are concerned about child care, about housing and rent and mortgage affordability. And Donald Trump is only in this campaign because he wants revenge and retribution. And so when Donald Trump is out on the trail, again, promising that he is going to give tax breaks to the wealthy and corporations, when Donald Trump is saying that he wants to gut Social Security and Medicare, when Donald Trump is saying that he wants to terminate the ACA, in order for us to make sure that people believe us when we're telling them he is serious about these things. This is not a joke. I know it sounds amorphous and pie in the sky to say that democracy is at stake, but it really is. And these proof points of Donald Trump's first presidency, of how he governed, and the things that he did, staging a photo op, tear gassing American citizens, and then taking a photo as the president of the United States. standing by while there was an insurrection happening and doing absolutely nothing in the White House are proof points of why voters should believe Donald Trump when he's saying that he's going to do all the things that our campaign is highlighting. He is not playing around, and we are running out of time to make sure that we communicate that to voters, and that's exactly what we're going to spend every single day from now until Election Day doing and drawing the contrast. And there's also the element of continuing to highlight how President Biden and Vice President Harris have gotten into the Oval Office and kept the promises that they made to Americans, leading them through a deadly pandemic, getting shots in arms, saving lives, another thing that Donald Trump failed to do, and ultimately impacted disproportionately a lot of voters of color, and he simply did not care. And so that is why Americans should believe us when we're telling them how dangerous of a threat Donald Trump poses to democracy.
I want to ask you, since you are the deputy campaign manager, about one of the important tactics that you guys are focused on right now, which is trying to lure Nikki Haley's supporters over to vote for Joe Biden. I know that members of your team met with Nikki Haley voters on Wednesday night, just hours after she said she would be voting for Trump this year. How do you think you can win those moderate Republicans without losing the progressives, many of whom are already frustrated with the president?
Well, I think that, look, Nikki Haley ran a campaign for months talking about the threat that Donald Trump poses to democracy. And our calculus is that we deeply believe that her supporters still believe that, which is why they are continuing to vote against Donald Trump in these Republican primaries, even months after she has dropped out. And we're going to continue to communicate that. The beauty of this is that we still believe that those voters care about democracy, and that's part of the advertising and the messages that you're seeing, part of what we're talking about in SNAP. They care deeply about the fact that Donald Trump stood behind an insurrection. They care deeply that Donald Trump is saying that he's going to terminate the Constitution. They care deeply that Donald Trump is talking about dismantling government institutions, talking about abandoning our allies.
So this
across
ad
the country.
isn't.
That's what those Nikki Haley voters support.
Yeah, that's interesting. Sorry, we're almost out of time. But you're making clear that this ad is in part specifically going for those Nikki Haley voters.
I'm saying that this ad also accomplished what we need to with our base and also to those Nikki Haley voters, because I think they care about democracy. That's part of the reason that they are resisting Donald Trump. And so this ad is doing double duty for us, yes.
And folks, thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dave.
Coming